You're stopped at a red light. You're sitting in a massive pickup truck. The paint is flawless. The leather seats still smell new. The dashboard glows like the control panel of a spaceship. You're 6 inches higher than everyone else on the road. Below you are sedans, hatchbacks, hybrids. And you, in this moment, you feel it. You feel powerful. You feel capable. You feel like the kind of man who can handle whatever life throws at him. And that feeling feels real. But here's the uncomfortable truth. That feeling isn't yours. It was sold to you. It came from truck commercials showing vehicles climbing mountains, towing boats through mud, splashing through rivers while a deep voice tells you this machine is built for real work. It came from marketing departments that figured out something dangerous about modern American men, that many of us no longer feel physically useful. So we look for symbols that make us feel strong again, because the reality is a lot less cinematic. You work in IT. Your job involves zero construction, zero farming, and zero towing. Your daily routine is a climate-controlled office, a laptop, and a chair with lumbar support. The bed of your truck has carried exactly 3 things in the last 8 months. Groceries, your kid's bicycle, and a case of bottled water. No drywall, no lumber, no heavy equipment. Yet you're driving a vehicle designed for commercial labor. A machine built to haul steel and concrete. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that until identity gets involved. That's where the problem starts. Over the past decade, something subtle but destructive happened in America. Masculinity stopped being measured by competence, skills, or financial stability. It started being measured by monthly payments. The truck stopped being transportation and became a statement, a badge, a costume. And once identity gets tied to debt, logic dies first. The dealership never talks about total cost. They don't want you thinking about 7 years. They don't want you doing math. They slide a piece of paper across the desk and point to one number. Only $1,200 a month. Your brain shuts off right there. You don't think about the fact that this commitment lasts longer than most marriages. You don't think about the fact that the truck costs more than your annual salary. You just feel like you've crossed an invisible line into a higher category of man. This is how expensive decisions get made, not through reason, but through emotion. And here's the brutal truth nobody tells you. Feeling powerful and being financially powerful are not the same thing. You can feel strong while quietly putting yourself in a weaker position. You can feel secure while increasing your vulnerability. You can feel in control while locking yourself into a fixed obligation that will dictate your life for the next 7 years. That illusion is dangerous because it works slowly. The first few weeks are incredible. Every drive feels like a victory. You love the height. You love the attention. You love how it feels to sit above traffic. But humans adapt quickly. By month 3, the truck is just your truck. The leather is just leather. The height is just normal. The payment, though, that never fades. Every month it shows up like clockwork. Every month it takes priority. Every month it quietly limits what you can do next. Not dramatically, subtly. You skip saving. You delay investing. You say no to opportunities without fully realizing why. You think you own the truck. In reality, the truck owns you. And ownership doesn't just mean money. It means mental space. It means stress. It means decisions you don't even realize are being made for you. The truck becomes the invisible filter through which every future choice passes. New job opportunity? Better not risk it. Unexpected expense? Credit card? Career pivot? Not right now. Because the payment doesn't care how you feel. This isn't really a story about trucks. It's a story about how easily people confuse symbols with substance. About how modern marketing has convinced an entire generation that strength can be financed and masculinity can be leased at 7% interest. Your grandfather probably drove a boring car and still built things with his hands. Your worth was never determined by what you drove. It was determined by what you could actually do and how stable your life was. Somewhere along the way, that got flipped, and the most dangerous part is that the illusion feels good at first. Long enough to trap you. Long enough to make you defend the decision. Long enough to make you emotionally attached to something that is quietly draining your future. This chapter isn't about judging anyone. It's about understanding how the trap works. Because once you see it clearly, it becomes impossible to unsee. And that's when the real math begins. The illusion survives for one reason. Most people never do the math. Not because they can't, but because the system is designed to make sure they don't. At the dealership, nobody talks about totals. Nobody talks about opportunity cost. Nobody pulls out a calculator and asks the most dangerous question of all. What does this really cost me over time? Instead, everything is framed around comfort, around affordability, around one carefully chosen number, monthly payment. Let's talk about what that number hides. In today's America, the average new pickup truck costs around $60,000. Higher-end trims, the ones people actually want, push $75,000, $85,000, even $95,000. Meanwhile, the median household income is hovering around $80,000. That means millions of people are financing vehicles that cost as much as or more than what they earn in an entire year. Now look at the loan terms. 7 years, 84 months. Interest rates between 6% and 9%. On paper, it doesn't look scary. The dealer shows you a payment around $1,200 a month and tells you it's manageable. But that payment is only the surface. Over the life of the loan, you're not paying $75,000. You're paying closer to $90,000. That extra $15,000? That's interest. That's the price of impatience. That's the cost of wanting the feeling now instead of the freedom later. And that's before we even talk about the hidden expenses. Fuel is the first one. A full-size truck averages around 15 miles per gallon. A modest sedan or hybrid gets 30 to 40. Over a year, that difference can easily cost you an extra $2,000 in gas, especially when prices spike, which they always do eventually. Insurance comes next. More expensive vehicle means higher replacement cost. Higher replacement cost means higher premiums. Trucks are also more likely to be involved in costly claims. That adds another $70 to $100 a month. Then there's maintenance. Bigger tires, bigger brakes, bigger oil changes. A set of truck tires can cost $1,500 and wear out faster than you expect. Repairs cost more because everything is heavier and more complex. Even routine service hits harder. Add registration, taxes, and unexpected repairs, and suddenly that $200 truck is costing you $1,700 to $1,900 a month. Now pause, because this is the part nobody wants to face. Take that same person and put them in a reliable, slightly used sedan instead. 3 years old. Nothing fancy. Total monthly cost? Around $800 to $900. That's a difference of nearly $1,000 every single month. And this is where the story stops being about cars and starts being about life trajectories. Because money doesn't disappear, it gets redirected. That extra $1,000 isn't just loss. It's money that could have been invested, saved, or used to buy freedom. Over 7 years, that difference adds up to roughly $85,000. If invested modestly, it could easily cross $100,000. So the real question isn't, do you want a truck? The real question is, are you willing to trade $100,000 of your future for how you feel at a red light today? Most people never frame it that way. Because if they did, the answer would be obvious. This is how lifestyle inflation quietly ruins people. Income goes up a little. Expenses rush to catch it. And suddenly, despite earning more than ever, you feel more fragile than before. One missed paycheck feels catastrophic. One unexpected bill sends you reaching for a credit card. Not because you're irresponsible, but because your fixed costs are too high. The truck doesn't just take your money. It takes your margin. And margin is what keeps life from becoming stressful. Margin is what lets you say no to bad jobs. Margin is what lets you handle emergencies without panic. Margin is what turns setbacks into inconveniences instead of disasters. Without margin, everything feels heavy. And here's the cruel irony. The very thing that was supposed to make you feel strong is the thing that quietly makes you weaker. You start defending the purchase emotionally because admitting the math would mean admitting a mistake. You tell yourself you deserve it. You say you'll make it work. You convince yourself everyone does this. And yes, everyone does. That's the problem. An entire system depends on people agreeing not to look too closely, on normalizing debt levels that would have been considered reckless just a generation ago, on convincing you that living paycheck to paycheck in a $75,000 vehicle is success. But math doesn't care about feelings. Interest doesn't care about identity. And payments don't care about pride. They just keep coming. Chapter 2 isn't about shaming anyone. It's about exposing the numbers behind the illusion. Because once you actually see the math, it becomes impossible to ignore what's really happening. And in the next chapter, we'll look at what this kind of decision does to everything else in your life. Not immediately, but slowly, quietly, and relentlessly. Because the real damage doesn't happen at the dealership. It happens over time. The most dangerous part of expensive choices isn't the price. It's the way they quietly rearrange your entire life. No alarms go off. No warning lights flash. Nothing feels wrong at first. But slowly, almost invisibly, your financial world starts shrinking. The truck payment becomes the center of gravity. Every decision you make, whether you realize it or not, begins orbiting around that monthly obligation. It's not just transportation anymore. It's a fixed rule of your life. And fixed rules limit freedom. Let's start with housing, because this is where the trap tightens. Mortgage lenders don't care how confident you feel driving to work. They care about numbers. Specifically, your debt-to-income ratio. Once your monthly obligations cross a certain threshold, doors quietly close. That $1,700 truck expense, it can single-handedly disqualify you from buying a home in many markets. Not because you're irresponsible, but because your debt load is too heavy. So you rent longer than you planned. You delay building equity. You tell yourself the market is the problem. But deep down, you know the truth. The truck payment ate the house. Next comes career pressure. When your monthly expenses are low, you have leverage. You can negotiate. You can take risks. You can walk away from bad situations. When your expenses are high, you lose that leverage. You stay in a job you hate because the payment is due. You tolerate bad management because stability matters more than fulfillment. You stop thinking in terms of growth and start thinking in terms of survival. The truck didn't just cost money. It cost optionality. And optionality is one of the most valuable assets you can have. Then there's the emergency fund that never quite forms. Financial advisors recommend 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. But when your fixed costs are inflated, that number becomes intimidating. $15,000, $20,000, sometimes more. So you postpone it. You tell yourself you'll start saving once things settle down. But they never do, because the truck payment doesn't settle down. It's constant, which means every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. A medical bill, a job disruption, a major repair. Instead of pulling from savings, you swipe a credit card. And that's when the second trap snaps shut. High fixed expenses force you into high interest debt. Credit cards become a pressure valve. They smooth the moment, but poison the future. Now you're not just paying for a truck, you're paying interest on interest. Money leaking out in directions you can't see. Stress becomes background noise. And stress changes behavior. You stop planning long term. You stop thinking strategically. You focus on getting through the month. Decisions become reactive instead of intentional. That's how people end up feeling stuck, even when they earn decent money. The trap isn't about being poor. It's about being overcommit. And then there's relationships. Money tension rarely announces itself loudly. It creeps in through small conversations, delayed plans, quiet frustration. One partner wants to save. The other wants to maintain appearances. The truck becomes a silent third presence in every financial discussion. Resentment builds. Defensiveness follows. Because when identity is tied to a purchase, any criticism feels personal. This is where ego becomes expensive. The hardest part is admitting that something which made you feel strong is now holding you back. That the symbol of success is functioning like an anchor. So instead of changing course, many people double down. They justify. They minimize. They cope. And coping is not the same as winning. The cruel twist is that the psychological payoff fades fast. The excitement of ownership wears off within months. What felt powerful becomes normal. What felt special becomes invisible. But the payment doesn't fade. It stays. Month after month. Year after year. This is hedonic adaptation. The human ability to get used to anything. Pleasure declines, but obligations remain fixed. You traded long-term freedom for short-term emotion. And once you're deep in the loan, escape feels costly. Selling the truck feels like admitting defeat. Being upside down on the loan feels embarrassing. So people stay trapped longer than they should. They don't realize that staying in a bad financial position to avoid emotional discomfort is one of the most expensive decisions you can make. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A lot of financial stress in America isn't caused by low income. It's caused by high fixed costs layered on top of average income. The truck is just one example, but it's a powerful one because it looks like strength. It feels like success, and it quietly removes your flexibility. The real danger isn't the truck itself. It's what the truck represents. A system that encourages people to prioritize image over leverage, emotion over math, and appearance over autonomy. By the time most people realize what's happening, years have passed. Money that could have built security has evaporated into payments. Opportunities were avoided because the margin wasn't there. And the worst part? From the outside, everything looks fine. Nice vehicle. Decent job. No obvious failure. But inside, there's pressure, anxiety, a constant sense of being one step behind. That's the financial trap. Not dramatic, not sudden, just slow, steady erosion. And in the next chapter, we'll confront the lie at the center of it all. The idea that these choices are practical, necessary, or unavoidable. Because once that illusion breaks, something powerful happens. You stop chasing the image, and you start building the life